I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Litan Yahav. Litan is a former officer in the Israeli Navy and established and successfully sold Segoma, a revolutionary technology that disrupted the global diamond industry, which is very, very interesting. Litan, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate having you today.
Yeah, Jason, I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us your story, give us your background? I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting stuff and certainly seems unique to any of the other guests I've had. So I'm excited to kind of hear your background.
Yeah, sure. I always like to start sort of like a personal background. So I'm 40 years old, married, 3 kids, was born in the States. And when I was 9 years old, my parents wanted to do a trip around the world with me and my brother. And we ended up in Israel, where my dad is from. And we've been there ever since, or here ever since. So, and then in Israel, military service is sort of mandatory. So I was in the military in the Navy for 6 years as a commander there. And after that, went to school. Compared to the U.S., late. So I went to school when I was 24 years old, studied law and business. And in my final year of studies, was part of this entrepreneurship program, and met my co-founder back then, who's my co-founder now as well. And this is like 11 years ago, we founded our last startup, which was Segoma, the one you mentioned, which came out of a phase we were in of looking for a problem to solve and build a business around. And during that phase, sort of just exploring different industries, and found a really inefficient way diamonds are traded around the world, and said, well, why don't we solve this with technology? And that's sort of like what's kicked off that startup, which went very, very well, and let us sort of, we can dive into sort of the rest of it. But fast forward, sold that back in 2015, made some money, left that company in 2018. At that point, we were about 250 employees, photographing basically all the diamonds in the world. Had enough of the diamond industry. Moved on, and we've been investing our money ever since, like for the past 7 years. A lot of real estate, private equity, startups, crypto, stuff like that. And about 2 years ago, it just became a headache, right? These are good problems to have, right? Don't get me wrong. But at that point, sort of like my spreadsheets became insane, and multiple bank accounts and cash going in and out, and documents and taxes. And it was just a real big headache. And so we built ourselves a piece of software to automate it. And while doing so, a bunch of friends wanted it too. And we said, wait, there might be business here. And we researched the world and found there are millions of people like us, and ended up building a new startup around that. And so we founded another startup called Vyzer, which is what we're doing now, which we founded at the end of 2020, which is basically a platform for helping people manage their money if they have complex portfolios. So that's sort of the end to end from the beginning to date. Yeah.
So, I think there's a ton of stuff here. Super interesting. And I love kind of what you said about, the original startup is you went into that with the mindset of let's look for a problem that needs solving, which is pretty much what entrepreneurship is, right? It's like, let's figure out an answer to this problem, especially people that are, starting companies that, you look at a certain business sector that is maybe antiquated, maybe just not doing things in the kind of 21st century, essentially. They're still doing it the way that it was always done, and then sort of revolutionizing that. Which, again, I love the mindset behind that. And I mean, maybe I just think it's interesting. Tell me a little bit about kind of what you did to do that, to make it, sort of bring it to current times, I guess.
So I think that, first of all, like building any business, I always tend to believe that it's a lot better to find a problem to solve using technology in our case, as opposed to many people who try to take a technology and then find a problem to solve with that technology, which usually is a lot harder and tends not to work. It works sometimes, it's just higher risk. And so what we did is we were looking for an inefficient industry or a problem that didn't make sense. And the cool thing about these sort of archaic industries is that they're so used to the way things work. And usually they're closed industries where they don't get a lot of outside people to try and solve their problems. And so they always eat their own dog food, and they're never sort of exposed to how you can do things better. And when people from the outside come with a fresh pair of eyes, it's like, how the hell in the 21st century do you still fly around the world with diamonds, ship them in order to show like you're a diamond manufacturer or dealer and you want to sell your diamonds to a jewelry store in the US and you're based in Hong Kong? You physically have to ship your diamonds for them to see them. And if they don't want it, they'll send it back. Like, that doesn't make any sense. You can buy a Porsche on eBay just thinking 360. Why can't you buy a diamond? And it turned out to be a bigger problem than we imagined, which is a good thing as well, because it creates a barrier to entry for competition. But it's like when you come totally naive to an industry of, hey, that doesn't make any sense, let's solve it with technology, and then dive in. And as you work at it, you've managed to solve it, and you overcome these obstacles that people that are blinded because their industry don't think you can even solve. Just like, I'll give you sort of like an anecdote. Like, we were in the early days of Segoma, when we spoke with like diamond manufacturers and dealers that have been in this industry for many, many years, because it's a family, usually family businesses and stuff like that. And so people are born into it. They're like, I want to be able to smell the diamond. And I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? How do you convey that into an image? Or I want to see the life of the diamond in the image that you guys do. And again, what we were trying to do is to take a diamond, which is a very small piece of sort of material, right? Photograph it and display it in very high resolution on the internet, and then have people interact with it on the internet without physically holding it in their hand. Right. And so in order to do that, you need to make sure, and if you want to become a trustworthy service, to present the diamond as if it was in your own hand under a magnifying glass, right? And so when diamond dealers tell you, I want to smell the diamond through the image, or I want to see the life in the diamond, and you can't even convey that to technology, it's really hard. So that's sort of, we were lucky enough to have an amazing team of people and investors, and we managed to solve that problem with technology. And we basically built imagine a microwave machine that you put a diamond into. It photographs it with very unique lighting and optics, and then uploads it to the internet and creates that 3D image that you can interact with. So almost every diamond you'll see online today is photographed with our tech. So it became a main operation to receive diamonds, photograph them, return them, and a lot of stuff on the way. But that's sort of the backstory of that industry.
I may have used your technology for my wife's engagement ring because I bought it online. I was like, I didn't know that was even a thing at the time, and then I found, it was through I think they have a shop in New York City, but it was like that's how I found it. So probably the same technology. That's funny. I was going to ask you, kind of, I think a lot of times when someone comes into outdated industry and they're presenting something like this, it's clearly like to you and to me, like it's clearly the way it should go, right? It's like, but then I was going to ask you about how much pushback you got, because some of those industries are the way they are because people are reluctant to let go of sort of the way it was. So I guess you did have pushback. People are like, I want to smell the diamond. I mean, I'm assuming you didn't have a solution to smelling the diamond, but
no, but that's a great question.
Yeah. Just go ahead. I mean, it's just like, I think I would expect you would run into some of that stuff when you're trying to transform an industry.
Yeah, we had a ton of pushback. Most people didn't believe we'd be able to execute this idea of to replicate the feeling of inspecting a diamond under a loop, which is a magnifying glass to look at diamonds, online. But the cool thing was timing. Like, we were perfect in terms of timing, and this is where luck unfortunately comes into play, right? We were at the right time, at the right place at the right time, because if I mentioned this is a family-run business, their children were born with iPhones, and they're at the age where they're entering the business and they want to make it more efficient and more adapted to the 21st century. And so the parents believe in smelling and seeing the life of diamonds, but the kids who are already in their late 20s, early 30s are like, I don't want to go to conferences and fly around the world and risk getting robbed and risk diamonds getting, I'm used to buying things on my phone online. I want to do this. So that was really an eye opener for us and a huge advantage for the time we went into the market, because again, we had to find these like early believers, right? Even the kids, not all of them believed in what we were doing. Like I remember so not many people know, but the vast majority of the diamond industry around the world is located in Mumbai in India. So 90% of the diamonds, even 95 today, percent of the diamonds in the world are polished and cut in India. And so we spent at the beginning of the days, we had an office in India, in Mumbai, in the diamond exchange there. And we lived there for like 6 months on and off. And all we did every day is knock on doors in the diamond exchange building and show people our technology and what we're doing, and they should send us diamonds for photography. And most of the time they would not, right? Because also a lot of trust involved in that. But those that did, we'd blow them away with like the result. And the coolest thing is that once they sent an image, a link of their diamond to a store in New York or in Belgium or whatever, that store would receive this amazing 3D image of a diamond that you can see all the imperfections in color even better than as if it was in your own hand. And then they'd want Segoma the next time. And so it creates this sort of network effect, per se. So like I want Segoma. So now it's a standard today. It's like,
well, and it just goes to that point of, I don't remember who said this, like where this quote came from, but it goes to yourself. It goes to a product. Make it so good that they can't ignore you, kind of thing. Like it's like if your product, if you would come in there and tried to do this, despite the fact that even if it was the right thing to do for the industry, if you didn't have that quality image, if you didn't have the technology right, you're not gonna break in. But if you come in there with something that's so good they can't ignore, well, there you are. Like that, it's gonna catch on eventually, despite the pushback. So, I mean, good for you in that you did that. You created something that was like, oh yeah, of course this is how we should do it. You know what I mean? Like it's like, there are certain products that come along that it's just like, yeah, it's like the reason why everybody has an iPhone, right? Because it's like, it's just so easy to use and works so well. Most of it's just kind of that sort of thing. So, really cool. So you sold that, and then you started investing. And tell us a little bit about that. Like you're talking passively, basically. You're investing in real estate and venture capital, that type of thing, but not starting more companies at that point. Is that?
No, so I mean, this was in 2015 when we sold the company. So we had this earnout period for 3 years to stay and manage and scale the company. So since 2015, we've been sort of managing our money. And then when you sell a company, there's a lot of PR around it. And then because there's PR around it, a lot of sort of wealth managers and investment managers reach out and want to give you advice on how to manage your money or take your money and they'll manage it for you. And at that point, we're like, well, I mean, I think we're good. We didn't make tens of millions of dollars. We made enough money to sort of invest it and stuff, but not to the level where we felt that it made sense to go to tier one solutions and pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for someone to manage our money. And so we just said, let's do it on our own. And then the next step was, all right, where do we invest? What do we do with it? And we just started to talk around and with friends and family and what do they do? And in Israel, as opposed to the US, sort of retirement savings is mandatory. So you don't have a choice to have a 401k in Israel. It's by definition. And so most Israelis feel that you're sort of set. You don't have to deal with your retirement in terms of pension. So any excess cash you have, you're going to do it in other avenues. And so for us, it was like, all right, yeah, let's start to find people we can invest with in real estate, because every second person here does real estate. And we did not want to be active investors because we wanted to find people that we can trust and be passive investors. And so we started to do that and speak with people that do that, and friends of ours or friends of ours. And for us from the get-go was finding people we can trust that will not screw us over. Mm-hmm. And then what they do was sort of secondary. And so we found people we can trust to do real estate syndications in the US and in Europe. And we started to deploy some capital with them. And it went well, and then with others. And that's what we ended up doing, just a lot of private equity and real estate investing passively in the US and in Europe, and some startups and crypto. And the more, I'd say, I already call crypto as more conventional because it's the correlation with crypto and the financial markets have become more or less the same now. So, so we have that, but the thing we're most passionate about is the passive income from real estate and other private equity type of investments. And so we've been doing that over the past 7 years. And
so in doing that, you encountered sort of another problem, which, as you mentioned, is a good problem to have. It's like all of these, I guess, passive, and I don't know, you talk about your latest startup, but you needed a way to sort of manage that, track it, that sort of thing. So how did you, I mean, what did you do? Tell us about it. I mean, it sounds like something that a lot of people could really benefit from.
Yeah, I think first of all, I mean, there are a lot of aspects, I think, of investing overall that are very sort of non-transparent and hard to access information. It goes for finding which investments to invest with or in, and it also goes into like, how is my investing going? Like, how do I even get transparency? Like, where's my money? How is it performing? I get these updates from funds I'm invested in. And so there are two sides of this, right? So first of all, who should I invest with? And there's a lot of inefficiency there because you speak with these fund managers, these syndicators, operators, sponsors, whatever you want to call them. And they're like, how do I even know that you're legit? How do I know that you're good, that you're not going to screw me over, that you know what you're doing? And then it's just like word of mouth. There's no good way to vet these. Like you can go on and listen to podcasts, and you can go and read online about articles and stuff that they've done, but you don't really know who the good ones are. And so that's one aspect of it. And the second aspect is that once you invest with these guys, it's sort of, all right, I invested $50,000, let's say, into a multifamily deal, whatever, and then sort of, all right, I'm supposed to get money from this deal every quarter. But I don't remember how much because you invest in many of these. And then the reports you receive are usually not that sort of straightforward. Long reports, go find like all the detail. Anyway, it just became hard for us, right? And so we decided to build something to solve that for ourselves. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like, so let's say you put $50,000 into one of these deals and you're supposed to get $4,000 a year distributed quarterly. Now, for 5 years, and after 5 years, the 50 is supposed to turn into 75 or whatever, and that's the plan for that investment. So let's just say there's one of those. And so every quarter, you're going to receive a statement from this operator with how much money you're going to get distributed this quarter. I don't remember how much I put in. I don't remember if this is what you said I was supposed to get. And that's problem number one. Problem number two is the money only arrives in your bank account 2 weeks later. And then, all right, I don't remember. Now I got the money. Let's say I remember 2 weeks ago. What's this money related to? So, and when you have one, it's easy. But when you have 10, 15 of these, again, good problems to have, right? But that's where it sort of becomes complicated. And not even talking about everything else that happens in your life. You have W-2 income, you have expenses, you have other investments, you have, anyway, and then things fall between the cracks and you start either lose money or make not as much as you expect. And so we built a platform for automating that for us. And then from there to people like us. And that's what Vyzer is all about. And another thing sort of that we felt when we sold the company, when we had money, and I think this is relevant not just for people that made money, like substantial amounts, also for anyone else. When you start to work with like financial advisors, wealth managers, there's always this sort of, I mean, these are good people, right? And there are many professionals out there that do a great job, But at the end of the day, they're focused on the mass market, and the mass market is usually only invested in the financial markets. Mm-hmm. And so a wealth manager isn't really a wealth manager. Essentially what they do, they'll manage your public portfolio, and anything else they can't really help you with it. Like you want to invest in a startup into real estate, they won't help you over there unless you're paying them a large amount of money, and then it might not work. Anyway, so there's a whole effect there where we're trying to sort of solve for us and people like us. And then the second point of that is sort of right, and just on that, and there is obviously we are charging for the product. It's a subscription or membership based model, so that we don't have any conflict of interest. We're only sort of serving the customer. But down the road, what we're trying to add on is not just showing what you have, but helping you understand what people like you are invested in, right? And so like creating this transparent community that's anonymous, but based on your actual investments. And then sort of showing you, right, people like you are investing in this and this. These are the asset classes they're invested in. These are the specific financial products or funds or GPs that they're invested with, and create this dynamic that is super transparent with no conflict of interest to help people make better financial decisions.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense. But
no, totally. I mean, it's a great idea. And I think, a lot of the things you pointed to, it's the wealth manager, the wealth management system that's kind of in place right now is not really very effective for anyone that is outside of like their 401k or IRA. Like most of they're just, I talk to investors all the time, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna talk to my financial advisor, but their financial advisor doesn't understand real estate investing. And it's like, well, so they're not really a financial advisor. They're just someone who picks stocks for you, and you could do that on your own. So you're paying them or you could just put it in a an ETF or something like that. Like you don't have to actually pay someone to, as you said, like mass pick these stocks for you. But yeah, the education, the awareness, the kind of problem on the real estate side or whatever it is, venture capital, is that it's not very accessible. And so now you're talking about, well, either you can't invest because you're not an accredited investor, or like even if you're an accredited investor, I know a lot of people that are accredited that don't know that they're accredited. They don't even know what that means. And then they don't know how do you, who are you to trust? And that's a great point. So having all of this kind of, I guess, just this level, this way to report it, I mean, I think it's a phenomenal idea. And I think it's essentially a data service, right? It's like there's Yardi and CoStar and all of those things for the actual real estate itself, and getting all of the data, but having that data collection from the group of people that are using your product, and then using that data to say, hey, look, this is, the experiences that those people are having with these particular operators or this particular asset class or whatever. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We have a lot of ideas and visions to make this as valuable as possible, just from our own issues and our own needs and wants, right? And we just feel that a lot of people like us out there.
Yeah, and I think it's you're going to have, I guess, people that are going to. There's people that are going to sort of push back, but they're going to be people that are like, well, I don't. That are not in that position to need to manage this level of wealth. They're like, that's not applicable to me. But I think sure, that may not be true, but I think, even people, the education and the data side of it, like that you can let people see that want to get to that level of investment or that level of wealth. Like, this is how it happens. Like, this is what you have to do to get there, and this is what the people that are doing it they use. So you could almost approach it even from that that perspective. I think it's just,
totally. I mean, when you think about people like you mentioned, most or many accredited investors don't even know they're accredited investors, right? And then when they do, when they hear about, hey, you can invest $50,000 into a deal and make $4,000 a year without doing anything, and then have appreciation on that, and also tax depreciate, it's like, wow, that's insane. How do I start? And then then it's overwhelming. Like, there's so much information out there. How do you even know where to go? I think there are amazing communities of investor communities and stuff like that. But still, it's like, it's still overwhelming. And like, if I can provide more transparency, even for those people that are getting started, seeing, all right, these are sort of the financial products, or these are the funds, or these are the GPs or operators or sponsors that people are investing in. These are the number of people that invested with them. You can communicate with the people, the LPs themselves, the investors themselves, and ask sort of for an input, then without any conflict of interest, that would be amazing for you to get started, I think. I wish I had that when I started investing. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, it's like, when you start, we all do it, right? When we start into as a sponsor, it's like the first thing that everybody tells you is, okay, go talk to friends and family. Well, like, what? I mean, my friends and family don't know anything about this, so it's like they trust me, but it's at the end of the day, like, that's what it is. They're trusting me, and so it's kind of, you're having a place that people can go to kind of understand, what their options are, and what, like I said, I have a lot of friends that they have financial advisors but don't know they're accredited. And it's like, you're not getting, if your financial advisor is not giving you the full picture, then they're not telling you, they're literally just a stock picker. Like, that's
I've actually met a lot of people that don't tell their financial advisor everything, because they don't want their financial advisor to know where all their money is, because they don't want their financial advisor to try and convince them to put more money under management. That's insane. Your financial advisor should know everything. Right. They should be able to advise on everything, right, without any conflict of interest. Right? That's how it should. And I'm not trying to take financial advisors' business. I think what they should do, what they do in the public markets, they should continue to do. I personally don't believe in stock picking. I believe in index investing, because I personally don't believe, unless I'm a day trader, that I'm going to be able to beat the market. But people who do, fine, give it to a financial advisor who says he can or she can. But sort of like, yeah, I get that. On your point, because a cool thing that we saw is we have a lot of operators, like sponsors, that reach out to us and say, like, I want all my LPs, all my investors to use Vyzer, so when you go live on this benchmarking side of this community aspect, we're an emerging manager. We're already going to have a track record. That's mind blowing. Like, where do we sign? So I mean,
I felt the same. I was like, how do I get on this? How do I get on this list?
Yeah, and so I feel, and I might be naive, but I feel that we can really bring a ton of value to many sides of the equation without any conflict of interest. But time will tell. Like, we're a startup. We're funded. We have money, but we're still trying to build a product that is trying to disrupt a hard industry, or the financial industry is a hard industry. But we feel that, like, we're getting a ton of feedback from our members, and things are going well. So I'm happy.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think it sounds like a great concept, a great product. I think from many different angles, really. I mean, it's just like you just said, like, as a sponsor, like, I want to be on that. Like, I want to be on there. I want people, because if that's where people are going to look to see who they should invest with, I want my name on there, right? Like, and as a investor who I also invest in other deals, like, it is hard to figure out who to invest with. And it's like, I have this podcast I've interviewed, we're over 150 people, but I don't know, I know them for the interview, but I don't know them, everything about, because anybody can, it's all projections, right? Anybody can put what they want out there for projections. Anyone can put, even, you can post the good deals on your website and maybe not the ones that didn't go so well, right? So it's just kind of like, I think the idea of having that transparency is really fantastic. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So, like, when you speak with investors, like, what's their number one question to you?
My world's a little different, because I think what you're getting at is, like, how many deals have you done? What's your track record kind of thing? I think that is something that's put out there, but most of my network is actually, like, pretty, this is very new to them. So it's like a lot of times, like, what's a syndication? Like, we're still at that level. So it's long conversations, but I think, I'm not sure exactly what you were, by
the way, what's a syndication? I've done 30 deals over the past 7 years, and a syndication is still not a defined term. Like, a syndication, or a syndicator versus a sponsor versus an operator,
right,
and the GP, like all that is all intertwined into weird terminology that no one really knows the difference. Like even that is like, that's an important question, right? What's a GP? Like all that is.
And that's what, I mean, when I have these discussions with investors, I mean, that's really where I start. Okay, what's a syndication? Like, and I try to put everything in really simple terms, in the sense that, like, you're right. Like you can Google it, you can look wherever. It's not very clear, but basically I tell people a syndication is essentially a group of people pooling their money together to purchase an asset that maybe a single person couldn't buy on their own. And you have two sides of the equation. You have the GP and the LP, and the GP has a whole bunch of different names, right? It's like sponsor, general partner, there's just all these different ways that people refer to it, but it's all basically the same thing. You have people that manage the deal, and then you have the investors. And so it's kind of I totally agree. Like it's a confusing world without a lot of resources. Like I remember when I was getting started and I was looking to do a mentorship, and I was hearing about all these mentorships through podcasts and actually reaching out and talking to them. But go ahead and try and like look for reviews, like Google reviews on the mentorships. It's not there. There's nothing there. I'm like, there's reviews on everything. Like Yelp has everything, Reddit has but it's not there on this stuff. It's just not. I don't know why. It's not there. I think, so some of the problem is the regulation behind it. Some of it's the SEC sort of making it so hard for, normal people to invest in this, but like some of it's just a lack of transparency. So I think it's I love it. I love the idea. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Interesting stuff. No, so I was just going to say that because I mean, the SEC does create a lot of challenges for operators, sponsors to raise money. I do think that we're going to a very rough period. Personally, that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And many people are going to thank the SEC for limiting them from getting into so many deals. Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it is to protect many people because it has become very accessible, and there's so many people that are raising money for different types of deals and different types of asset classes, and creates a whole new world of risk. Yeah. Right now you really need to cherry pick the deals you go into, because you want to make sure leverage and stuff like that matches what's going to happen soon. Rates going up is going to affect return. Anyway, it's going to be very choppy waters, I think, moving forward. And I think caution is really important.
Yeah.
And transparency is more important as well. So it'll help.
Right. From caution on the I guess LP side and transparency from an operator side. And I think that you're right. Like I guess the safety or the regulations, the safety, the protection, it absolutely should be there. I don't actually have a problem that it is. My problem is that all those regulations are in place for real estate investments, but anyone can go and get a brokerage account, put all their money in GameStop and lose it all. And nobody protects them from that. Right. So that's my why do they make it so hard to get into a real estate investment, and not like anybody can invest all their money in stocks and lose it? There's no regulation there. That's what doesn't make sense to me, I guess, is kind of.
I totally agree. That's a very, very good point. I guess for me, because in Israel, I can't touch my retirement account. I can't do anything with it.
Right.
Not like in the States where you can invest in whatever you want. And so, or brokerage account for that matter. So, that's a totally valid point.
Right. I mean, you could, was last week, the stock market, the NASDAQ dropped by 30%. Like it just like that stuff. That's very yes, you have to be careful on your real estate investment, but you're not going to lose 30% in a day. Like it just doesn't. That's not generally how.
You might. But the cool thing about real estate, in my mind, or any private equity for that matter, is the illiquid aspect of real estate protects you from making really bad emotional decisions.
Right.
So if you think about the stock market or like the investing in stocks as you would real estate, illiquid, although it is liquid, if you thought about it differently, then it doesn't matter if it crashed 30% in one day. Like, it doesn't matter because you need to ignore your emotions about it. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, no, yeah. I guess those losses are only realized when you sell it. So it's I think it all just comes down to education. It sounds like Vyzer is going to be that sort of like education and transparency type of, portal or however you refer to it, but some place for people to go there and learn how to manage their wealth better, which is, I think, valuable at whatever stage you are in kind of the investing game. Yeah, super cool. Well, Litan, let's kind of switch gears here a little bit, and I'll get to the part where I get to ask you kind of all the questions I ask every guest.
Sure.
With the first one being related to the name of the show, being Know Your Why. What's your why? What kind of drives you towards success? What really motivates you and keeps you going?
So I love solving problems. So for me, like, and for me, problems, like when I see inefficient industries or businesses, like my passion is to solve that. So especially when people get affected negatively by that inefficiency. So that's sort of like why I do it.
It's very cool. It's I mean, Diamonds was one. There's plenty of others out there too of inefficient industries that could use you. So it's great to have someone trying to look to solve those problems. Second question for you: tell us something about yourself that maybe isn't common knowledge. Special skill or a hobby or something, just to let the listeners know you a little better.
Well, all right. So I love Lego. My kids, I have 3 kids, 3 boys, and the amount of Lego they have is insane. Like we don't have a place to put it anymore. Yeah. So yeah, that's something that people don't know about me.
I feel like Lego is like they say it's for kids, but like plenty of, I mean, one of my best friends, he doesn't have kids and he has Legos, like some of the, like, he loves Star Wars. So he has some of the like really big, elaborate Lego Star Wars.
Listen, Lego like is one of those things that, like, there are all these other toys that my kids have, like action figures and stuff like that. It's like, what's the point? Like Lego is like one of those things that it just inspires like creativity and just out of the box. Like, doesn't matter how much you have, you're going to have, you can create new things out of what you bought. And so
right. Yeah.
I've convinced myself about that until it became overwhelming. The amount of Lego they have, it's really too much.
That's yeah. I mean, it takes up a lot of space, and those tiny pieces can be a problem. But yes, yeah. I think it is. You can sort of stimulate their minds and yours for hours. Really, I mean, it's really pretty cool.
Right.
And like at its most fundamental level, a really simple invention. But
exactly.
What people have done with it is like incredible. When people hear this and they want to reach out, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Yeah, so you can drop me an email, litan@vyzer.co. Vyzer is VYZER, or Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm pretty responsive on all those networks.
We'll put that stuff in the show notes too. Final question for you, maybe I'll put a little spin on it. You're a bit outside the box guest, which I love. Those are kind of often my favorite interviews. But what piece of advice would you give to someone who is, I know you're creating a platform to help for this, but what piece of advice would you give to someone who is looking to kind of, grow their wealth and track it and like do it in such a manner that they're not, they're not losing track of what they're doing, like you said, kind of forgetting what they're supposed to get and when and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, so if the question is around sort of like what advice would I give someone who's starting out to build their wealth, is that sort of the question? Yeah. So I think that so I'll say from my experience, what I would do or wouldn't do is I don't believe. I believe I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not, I know what I'm not good at, and I don't know what I don't know. Right. So I know you had you had a show about that, but so for me, it's like I'm never going to be a day trader. I'm never going to be an active real estate investor. The way for me, what I do best is find people that I trust that won't screw me over. That's my philosophy, and I believe that people should focus on what they're good at and exploit that and not try to do things they're not, because it's very easy to look at someone else and see how they built wealth using stocks or using crypto or using whatever and think, well, I'm going to do the same because he got wealthy from doing that. Or here, Litan just built a company and he managed to scale and sell it. I should do the same. I mean, it really matters on like what your passions are and what you're good at, and focus on that and do that the best you can, and find people you can trust and give them their money and make them and let them scale it up for you. That's the way I see wealth overall. I might be wrong, right? This is just my perspective and the way I've seen it work out for me and people around me. But again, it's like knowing what you're good at and not trying to be good at, or you can learn anything at the end of the day, but then where do you focus your time? So yeah, that's my input on that. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it does. And that's a perfect, kind of piece of advice for especially like the passive investor, right? It's like focus on what you're good at, right? You're whatever, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're in tech, whatever your sort of most productive skill is, focus on that, and then find people that you trust that can put your money to work in the ways that you want. And I think you have to add to that too, like you do need to, I mean, you've done this, like you do need to educate yourself. You shouldn't just be a blind, it goes back to that sort of financial advice. People like get a financial advisor and they're like, okay, tell me what to do. And it's like, you got to have some responsibility and knowledge for your own money and not just,
I agree. And I'll just add on that, on the wealth side of it, just like something that I've seen over the years that for me has been really important is that I try not to focus on building wealth, but building passive income.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, in order to increase passive income, you need wealth, but it's a different mindset because
it is.
Like, I don't want to lock my money in and just hope for it to appreciate in value over the next 20 years. If it doesn't generate income, it's not worth investing it in my mind at the moment. Like it's just taking too much risk. I want to generate passive income. Now, if you want to generate enough passive income, you need your net worth to be at a certain level, but still the focus for me should be on passive income. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to, and a lot of people do, their idea is what's that cash flow, what's that passive income going to be? You have to, but that just comes down to sort of your own, like the knowledge level of what is my goal, right? Like are you focused on passive income? Are you focused on building equity so that then the passive income is larger? And whatever it is, you just need to know what your strategy is and not sort of blindly go out there and kind of let someone tell you how it's going to go. So, no, great advice. And thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I think this was super cool. And I really look forward to seeing, kind of what happens with Vyzer and that, once that's implemented, I think it's going to be a phenomenal opportunity for people to use from, again, like we said, from a lot of different angles.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited about it as well, as you can tell.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, we will sign out there. As always, everybody, please like, rate, review. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this episode. So let us know. We'd love to hear feedback about what other types of guests you want to see. Have a great day.
I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you.